do it.
So like I said, that worked for our family. And there were times, obviously, when, I didn't have to bribe him, but it just got to where then I didn't have to do that anymore. It would just be like, even now, I mean, he's 18 and the stuff we talk about would probably horrify some people if they walked in our house who'd never talked to their children about sex or pornography or anything. And, they would just be like mortified, but it's just become so easy. And that's what I want to encourage parents is it is, kind of awkward at first, but the more you do it, the more you become comfortable and the more they become comfortable. And after a while, it'll just be like, okay, it's just something we talk about.
Right.
And it will probably bring some levity to the conversation later with their future spouses that they can be more open to talk about. Sex shouldn't be shameful. God made it. He made it great on purpose. So pornography adds that layer of shame that they don't want to talk about it, but we want to remove that so they, even if they have done things that they can, be forgiven. I was going to say that when we started kind of talking to the boys, I didn't want to lose sight of this years ago. I remember wondering if my son had seen pornography because we hadn't burrowed that far to ask him and just boldly just flat out ask him if he had. You kind of make an assumption that kind of happens around that age. And I remember when I found out and I was devastated. And I know you felt the same way. Like I was heartbroken. I thought,
you're telling me
not the end of innocence, but it is. It's like, that they're not going to remain innocent in a sense that they're not going to ever, enjoy that part of what God's given to a marriage. But I just thought to myself, how was I not able to protect him?
Right.
We're pretty vigilant, but we're not, going to control I have to have some ability to let him make his good decisions. That fine line between that.
Well, I want to hear what you did and how the method that you used to create that safety net. My mistake that I made for my family was I completely trusted my son with a computer. And he was like maybe 9 or 10, I can't remember, maybe 11, I'm not sure. And I just assumed, he'll be fine. He won't go to anything. Well, someone from church had told him about it was a tank game. And on the tank game, it then led you to YouTube. And then he found stuff and saw pornography that way. And but for me, it was because I didn't have a filter on our computer. Doesn't mean he wouldn't have seen it somewhere else, but he may have not seen it that early if I would have just put a filter in place that it would just been so simple. Yeah. So I did kick myself for a long time.
Yeah, and we didn't have that either. And it was the same assumption. It's a dumb assumption.
It is.
It's ignorant. That's just out of ignorance. I'm just going to speak for myself. We just
me too.
Thinking, he's fine.
Yeah, we're godly kids.
Right.
Or not even that it's not going to pop up from another source. Because if you're not in it, I didn't know that.
That's what happened to me with my son. He was working on a science project, and I called Brian about that because he's like, well, Dad, they just kept coming.
They bombard.
You can't get out of it sometimes.
He couldn't get out of it. And I went back through, and there was like 50 pages. Yep. Yeah. And I'd close them out.
5 more.
And
boom.
5 more pop up. But it was already there. He's already seen it. Yeah. And it's like,
undo it.
Oh my God. And I wanted to cry because the innocence, right. And I thought I'd been protecting him. And then I felt like a bad parent because he's seen this.
Right.
But I look back at what he went to look for in history, and it was what we talked about.
Innocent, yeah.
And he misspelled the word, but it took him. And
well,
it was like, oh my God, I don't believe this.
How old was he when that happened?
This was last year, so he's 12.
Well, Kenyatta, that goes into what we're talking about is why have the conversation, and what you just said about how he innocently typed in something wrong. And I think I gave the example at a show a couple of weeks ago, how a friend of mine was going to make a naked cake where you just kind of put,
that just opens the can.
They're beautiful. It's just like little swipes of frosting here and there with real flowers, and it's beautiful. But she was afraid to type in that word because she knew what was going to come up. Well, the pornography industry, how many billions and billions of dollars that they make each year. They're aware of that. So actually the pornography industry, they actually target our children. Sure. And because more than 90% of all teenagers from 12 to 17 have been exposed to hardcore pornography, not just not pornography, which is bad in itself, but hardcore. And so they know that. So they target them through like online games, advertisements, pop-ups, merchandise, all kinds of things. Just like many years ago, the tobacco industry was targeting, like my husband's father was a Navy fighter pilot. And he said when he joined the Navy, part of your pack that you got when you joined was cigarettes. They would just give you unlimited amounts of cigarettes.
Here's some smokes.
So he became addicted to cigarettes. And so pornography industry is kind of in the same lines. If they can get into everything that the kids are enjoying innocently online, then by pop-ups and spam and all that, and or mistyping a word like your son does, they can easily get children addicted to that.
And make it seem like it's normal. That's the thing that's scary, is that if it's everywhere that they're going, they're on Instagram or on wherever they're at.
Vine.
Oh, it's just
YouTube.
It's there. It's just part of what is. No, it's not. It's not normal.
Do you mind giving an example of you were on Pinterest?
Oh yeah, I wasn't going to say it. I didn't want people to get out there, but no.
We've already had that conversation. We had the social media. I did the social media rundown. I think on the last one.
Well, we do have now, a block on the phones, the devices, the phones, the tablets, and the computer, and they're not perfect, but I think they stopped some of that. Well, I didn't understand that you could get pornography off Pinterest. Here I'm thinking you're talking about building naked cakes and whatnot on Pinterest, and my son, I asked him, I was having a conversation with him. We check in with him periodically about, are you still struggling? What can we do to get ahead of this? And it was in one of those normal conversations. And I just said to him, hey, I just want to talk to you. Are you still struggling? Are you still looking up stuff? Kind of talk to me about that, which, by the way, should be a normal conversation for us to have. And he said, yes, I am. And there's two parts to this. I said, well, where did you find it? Because everything's blocked, right? Quote unquote. Yes. He said, well, I got it off Pinterest. Someone at school showed me how to get it off Pinterest. And I'm like, I was flabbergasted. I thought,
that's supposed to be recipes,
well,
right?
Yeah, and
that's what I thought.
Interesting, which I feel even worse, because he and I for a while would play this. When he was on the bus in the morning, I'm on the treadmill, he's on the bus, and we would send pins back and forth. Funny, there's a lot of funny humor, a lot of stuff out there. We would kind of send funny pins back and forth, and I thought, oh my God, here I am just giving him this gateway. Obviously, I wasn't sending him those kind of things, but I thought we're using this in complete innocence. And when he told me that, I thought, I really have to take Pinterest away from my son's phone. That is ludicrous.
Yes.
But the second part to that is what I wanted to say, a little unrelated to that, but when he and I had that conversation, what he said to me was, Mom, are you mad at me? Oh, and this was probably last year, when he was 16. And I said, and I was crying because I want it to stop. I want it to just go away as if he never saw it. Right. And I know that's not reality, but
it's the new drug.
It's
Brian says that all the time.
Yeah. And I said, he goes, Mom, are you mad at me? And I said, I'm not mad at you. I'm glad you can talk to me about it because we need to get you through this. But I'm disappointed that we can't get a hold of it. And I just think it's important that he knows I don't look at him any less. That's the first thing when I told you that he had originally seen it, my first thought was, I want his wife to know that he never saw that, or, but that's just not reality. But I don't want him to think I look at him as lesser, or I think of him as less of a godly man, because I don't think that makes him less godly.
No, absolutely not.
Which is a big thing for when you're trying to raise little Christians up. If you're going to fall in certain areas, and some people fall in maybe areas that don't impact their lives as much, but this is a biggie. And I just wanted him to know, I can't think that he thought that I was going to be mad at him. I'm glad he asked the question, then I could have an opportunity to explain to him I wasn't mad at him. Well, we have to get through it, is really.
But see, your years or months of talking to him, right? Open that channel to where
definitely.
he could say that, because sometimes it is hard if parents haven't had conversations before to get that started. But the great thing is no matter what age your children are, you can start anytime.
You're listening to ChristianLivingRadio.com. If you'd like to get your show, your ministry on the air, please contact us at 520-812-6363 or write to us at info@ChristianLivingRadio.com. And now back to the show.
You can start anytime, just like when we have a program at our church, Train Up a Parent.
Yes.
And, we started before Clayton was born. So while I was pregnant with him, we started the whole thing, and then train up it was the toddler years and the teen years. So we did the whole program. However, in those classes, there were many people that had an 18-year-old, or maybe they had a 5-year-old and they had a 25-year-old, and it was always said, you can apply these, you can start fresh right now, you can start right now, and starting with these principles, train up your children a different way than maybe you had in the past. So it's the same with this. Even if you haven't talked about this before, and your child is 18 or 16 or whatever, you can start right now. Because they need to hear it from their parents. So it just starts that communication. And even if it never gets smooth, because, everyone receives things differently. But if you never have that smooth line of communication with your children, at least by talking about it, they know that you can come to them and you're not going to be mad. That was really important about what you said. Because of the Train Up a Parent classes that Brian and I had been to when we raised Clayton, I remember them saying, well, if your kids come to you and, maybe they blurt out a swear word that they heard in the movies, right. Don't overreact. Because when you overreact, that sets in their mind like, oh, there must be something wrong with this word. Yeah. So
I'm going to use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to use it more.
So the first time that, Clayton had said something, I was cool as a cucumber. And it never, he never said it again. But the same when I had found out that he had seen pornography, inside I was screaming at the top of my lungs, but he didn't know that. On the outside, I was completely calm. And because of that, I feel like we were able to continue our conversations about that, because I could immediately cut that off and stop that from him from ever being able to feel comfortable talking to me if I would have blown up at him.
Yeah. Or talking to anybody. Yeah. The bigger part of that is not talking to you, but we're emulating what their relationship is with God. So Correct. If they can't get forgiveness from us, it's really hard for them to understand that concept when they get older, that Father God can give them forgiveness. So it is a vital step for them to be able to come to you. Yeah. I was going to say one thing that is a little unrelated on the topic, but when you talk about your response to them, I get to deal with a lot of teenagers in the groups that we're involved with activities. And
is that extracurricular activities?
Yeah, the explorers and shooting and that kind of thing. So I'm always around teenagers, Okay. And they talk, which is so fascinating. I'm virtually a stranger to them. I'm not their mom or anything. They see me a couple times a month or whatever, but they just open up and talk about stuff. And one of them had told me that they got in trouble for something, and I don't even remember now what they had been in trouble for. It was something pretty big, and they got in trouble, and their parent was so mad at them that they didn't talk to them for 3 days. They ignored them for 3 days. And I thought, well, I don't know what that was. And we've dealt with some pretty big stuff, and I don't not talk to my kids, but I don't remember what the nature of it was. But if your response is to not talk to them and close that off, I would never want to come tell you anything again. If you weren't going to talk to me about it and give me the cold shoulder and act like that because you're breaking the relationship. It's not just about dealing with the item.
Right.
You're breaking that relationship and the ability to come to someone and talk to them in confidence.
Yeah.
So
sometimes I'll do that with my son. Mm-hmm. I have to get quiet so I don't.
Different story. Yes.
Yeah. But I'll come back and then break it down why I didn't say anything then. And yes, I was upset, but I love you and I need us to talk more, but I don't want this type of behavior out of you. Yeah. And would God like that? And I'll start discussing things that way. And now that that dialogue has taken place, things are a lot better.
So you've seen a difference then?
Yes.
Yes, that's good.
I've seen a big difference in it. And, that comfort zone they need as a child, because